Josh. I'm from Good Habits. I head up strategy, Good Habits. And before that, I worked as a freelance motion designer, doing projects for Apple, Ticketmaster, Burberry, that kind of thing. I then started to lead some of those projects and eventually teamed up with Chris Smythe to start Good Habits. I'd been admiring his creative direction for a little while, and we'd worked together on a few things. So yeah, we started the studio about 3 years ago. We're a design studio. We specialize in strategy, brand, and a bit of motion as well. I live in Sidcup in Kent with my wife Sarah and our 2 kids, Jacob and Daniel, who are 7 and 4, and absolutely crazy. And yeah, love what I do. So we're going to talk today about this project, Penny. Wanted to start just by giving a brief overview of the subjects we'll cover in the talk, just so that everyone's knowing what's coming up, bit of an outline. We're going to talk about David Cameron, and then millennials, and then AI, budgets, and the marketing kettle, Dixon Baxi, and then the single most important thing you will learn as a designer after Googling yourself. So that's the whole talk, and we'll go through it one bit at a time. David Cameron and Nick Clegg, these two, back in 2012, when we were distracted by Mr. Bean at the Olympics, they decided to totally change how pensions work, and they created a thing called auto-enrollment. Everyone would automatically get a pension regardless of anything else. If you're employed, your employer just sets it up for you. We're all super familiar with this idea now, but back then, just every employee would get a pension regardless of anything else. The problem with that was millennials, of course. Why? Because they are lazy and they don't keep records of pension scheme numbers, as they happily switch jobs every 1 to 2 years, and therefore have absolutely no idea where any of their pensions are. And the crazy thing is they've thousands of pounds saved, and I'm saying this as a millennial as well, right? Thousands of pounds saved in their pensions and have no idea where they are, how to access them, or anything like that. And if you wanted to find your pension, particularly at this time, you would need your pension scheme number, you need to call your employer, you'd need to send off a few documents to a random pension provider you've never talked to, and it's just a total mess. And like I say, for every job, you'd get a different one and a different scheme number and all of that. So a bit crazy. And finding them was a bit more like you'd want it to feel like a forgotten password thing. If you just click a button and you're there, but it's a little bit more trying to break into MI5 and have all the right numbers in the right places. So this company called Penny, if we fast forward to 8 years to 2020, they were quietly building something in the background. And the solution to this, of course, is AI. And it was just coming onto the scene in 2020. And Penny figured out a way to basically take your name, your address, and your national insurance number, and they would go away and find all of your pensions from everywhere and would just put them all in one place, effectively using AI and a lot of handwork and sending off letters themselves, that kind of thing. So this was back in 2020 when AI was still cool. But pensions are not very cool. And that was our brief. Make Penny, which is an AI thing that was contained in like a Facebook Messenger app to begin with. You just chat with it and it will go in and do stuff over a chatbot. Make it interesting, because the people we want to talk to are the people who have no idea where their pensions are, and you say the word pension and they go to sleep and don't want to know anything about it. But they're the ones that have like thousands saved across a bunch of stuff. And yeah, the pension industry in general, very, very, very boring. Really bland, uninspiring, a lot of why would I care? A lot of, whenever you talk about it, you have to say, it's not boring, it's really exciting about your future. And they would say these things, but they would definitely not show it. And yeah, bland and just not very well designed, not very well inspired in general. And our aim was to be a pensions disruptor. And in a single word to do that, being unfamiliar. So there's the brief: be very unfamiliar in this world, be very, very different. And this is also like 2020, right? I said we started the studio a few years ago. This was our very first project as a studio. And we're now project 100 and something or whatever. And this is the very first one, totally blank canvas, which is really exciting. And with that, and with them being a disruptor, not much of a budget, not really anything to play with. Felt a little bit like we were saying yes because we want to start a studio and do cool projects. And so with that, I think our background being just fairly structured in our thinking and our strategy, but actually quite just design-led in general, we just started making stuff, right? Just going, what are the ways that we can represent the word penny with this idea of gathering things together, growth, and like a side note, designing a P. It's very hard not to make a parking app. Just half the time we're going, man, this just feels like another place to park or whatever, but we wanted it to feel simple and feel elegant. And yeah, just tons of initial concept work, and this is, we'll go through a bunch of it, but like I'll show about a third, maybe a quarter of the actual development stuff, let alone the things that were actually, half made and then thrown away. But we landed somewhere around here, and so we presented it to them through PDF, the greatest of all file formats, and just a little bit of putting the brief back to them of we want it to feel informal, playful, lighthearted, but also there needs to be some trustworthiness, and there needs to be a little bit of structure here. We can't go totally too far. And so yeah, there was a recognition of the tension between, this is actually a financial thing, but we need to be crazy, and the brief is to go wild. So yeah, this coin felt like the right angle of just who does a logo that complicated in this day and age, who actually runs with that, right? That's not Aviva. That's not like, they wouldn't go near this. And patterns, and leaning into like GT Flexor as a typeface, again, like ink traps, just such a at the time, like really trend driven kind of, let's be as design led as we can. And yeah, so we're presenting all this to them and taking through typography things, and this was after maybe a week or two of a bit of internal development, but really like trying to present something that felt quite off the cuff, and like, here's our first attempt. To say colorway, be warned, it's very playful. And so smashing them in the face with like, let's go with this yellow, and let's go with this pink, and let's go with this blue, right? Like, let's actually real go full colorway, and these are like initial impressions, and let's mix them up, put one on top of the other. Let's really make this thing feel just very different. You wouldn't get this from anywhere else. And a little bit of out of home context, and again trying to actually land this in something that does feel simple, even though it is super different and like crazy. So yeah, a few mock-ups and initial implementation things. And this is still kind of part of the first presentation. So we did all of this before we'd seen anything, right? So the client, a guy called Josh as well, who he really like trusted us, right? A studio that had just started to go away and create this brand. And yeah, we did some animation as well, background and motion, just showing this is what the app could feel like. So you're taking this, so taking this Facebook Messenger chatbot and then building it into an app. So the core structure of it's a chatbot staying the same, but just providing these options and little moments of joy of this coin rolling in and dropping in, like a pension that's been found and then put in the right place. We also, I believe it was after the first presentation, may have been part of it, started to develop what does the app actually look like. And again, what does it look like? To just break all the rules of app design. And as a first project go, yeah, there's a navigation, but like we'll put strokes on everything. When was the last time you used an input box that looked anything like that for something? And going really, everyone loves to use shadows for everything. Maybe we'll use one at the top there, but like mostly this is just a flat as a pancake, as bold as possible, full color backgrounds everywhere thing. And yeah, it felt really fresh and like really new and exciting. I presented that to them and they loved it. They really liked it. They were all over it and like really positive feedback. And we went through, explored some color options, started to actually go, what, let's take that full crazy color and just pare it back a bit. What happens when we explore other options? Exploring some purples, and here as well, like a couple of website mockups. Again, like who does that for a website where it's that clean a background with a ridiculous call to action that's punching you in the face versus other things. And yeah, just rough development work, but really trying to like go way too far with it. Just really pull stuff apart and try different versions. And we start to refine things, get towards another color concept here. That same like two-tone thing, and here also start to see we're kind of round 3 of revisions here and equal parts feedback from them and us, refining things as we go. Not being afraid to show something early that we know isn't quite the right thing, trusting that they're gonna let us refine it. And really like their feedback helped, but this before and after is a great example of, yeah, this was us going, B is better than A, let's move forward. So yeah, small refinements, simplifying things a little bit, but still landing somewhere that feels very different and like very disruptive, and all of those good things. And yeah, we also wanted to show a little bit of elegance as well with it. It's quite hard to show a full color thing without also scaring away a client that goes to have to do that everywhere all the time. Kind of, but it doesn't necessarily mean you feel less elegant. And yeah, when used properly, these kind of things are possible. We then also started exploring other color options for apps, and a lot of development time went into just going, what does the app look like? We kind of mess around with colorways, app icons as well, bits and pieces in here. And yeah, so that was our kind of initial development and sharing things together, going through a few rounds. And then at some point the project has to finish and has to land and we have to case study it for the site and all that kind of stuff. And those decisions, mostly whilst they are strategic in terms of us as designers wanting them to be the way we want them to be, there was also listening to the client. And yeah, this sticks and backsy graphic, I think summarizes it, and even for this first project, really quite well. There was a fairly last minute pivots towards safety in some of the cases with this first project. But yeah, this feels right for us, of just go way too far, start off with the uncomfortable on the far right there, and then you can bring it back to just right. And that's what we did. And this was the kind of the brand that got implemented to begin with. So we have this coin dropping into the slot, an app that, again, using that yellow as like a really punchy landing point. It seemed to fit within what they were doing within, it is pensions, but it's exciting. And there was a lot of yellow in that last thing to do with pensions. It felt like, yellow itself isn't boring, but like, but it does associate with pensions. So I think there's something probably there. And yeah, this is the app design they launched with. So again, still pretty crazy, pretty flat, but like pulled back a touch, so it still lands in the right way. Those crazy drop shadows aren't everywhere, right? They're kind of not drop shadows, offset lines like you see in the logo, right? So this line here, we had put it under everything, but then pulling it back a touch for this. A bit of motion, excuse the background, but a little bit of bringing character and playfulness, helping these buttons land as buttons, and yeah, on a brand level, right? Not trying to say that these have to be in the app, those have to be the things that you hit or whatever, but just what is the feel of this thing, and make sure it does not feel like any pension product you've ever used, because we want to catch the attention of people that have never used a pension product because they hate them. And yeah, this is what's doing that. The website, a landing point. Yeah, again, some familiarity in interactions, but mostly a unfamiliar territory. And this is the kind of final app onboarding animation that the dev team took and implemented as like the reference point. And yeah, just felt great, like full color background of like a bright primary color. Who does that in app design? Like you open up most apps and that doesn't happen. And it felt really good that like there's that level of trust for them to go and reinvent this and make it feel really different and unfamiliar. A bit of out of home, which was yeah, well received, but everyone's looking at this going, we've just started. We're not going to do this anytime soon, but good to know that it's going to build for the future. Just a good way of presenting things. So that was Penny version 1, and they launched with it, did really well. They aimed to be a pension disruptor. Absolutely happened. They got some great press. Google Ventures invested a bunch of money. Monzo's co-founder invested a bunch of money, and just overall it went down like really well. Just comments of like, we love this brand, like from the customers. And then there was also something that happened during that 12 months, where if you Googled Penny, you would start to find questions like this of, is this actually like legit? Like you've just gone and found a bunch of pensions, and it's going to go into this app. Okay, cool. It's going to live there, and you're going to be around for a while, right? Like I need it when I retire, and this isn't necessarily the place that you keep substantial life savings. And like early adopters, like love this stuff. They want to have like the newest, craziest, most different experience. That's why they're there. That's why they're an early adopter. But like, someone just transferred 200 grand into the app. And the app itself feels very unfamiliar. That's not necessarily the best thing for a growth point of view. And Google Ventures had said, we're here because we want this to grow from, I think, 100,000 users to like 10 million. And so there was a fairly, they did all the right things in terms of getting to this point, but we need to mature the brand. Was like a big finding in that first year. And it was right for that first year, but from that point, it was cool, this needs to now be a bit more of a grown-up and a little bit less crazy. And they came back to us with that, which is no small deal, because when you kind of, hire an agency to do a thing, and they do it really well, you'd like to think that clients think we could do other things really well. But our experience has been that a lot of the time, you go to one agency for one type of project and another agency for another type of project. And this was like almost a polar opposite brief, and they came back to us with it, which just is really nice. And it's worth saying, because clients do nice things sometimes. We probably don't give them enough credit. This was really nice. They came back to us. So we were delighted. This is where Penny V2, which is what you saw at the beginning, comes in, and the brief for this one, familiar. We needed to feel as familiar as possible, almost the opposite of what we just set out to do. But they love the brand, right? The users love the brand. There's something really good in there that we want to keep. And they've been messing around with Swift UI to build effectively an updated prototype that looks like this, right? Like every stock app you've ever seen. So they're like, this is kind of the structure of the app, and it's good for us from a development point of view. We really love what people like Free Trade do. They build this way. We really love what a few other companies do. And we want to have it feel as if this is a really native experience, but still have Penny in there, still feel like Penny. As you can imagine, is quite a difficult brief, right? We want it to feel like Penny, which is unfamiliar, but really familiar. So we're left with that kind of juxtaposition. So we do what we do best, which is going away and playing and throwing things on the canvas and just exploring options. So you see here some kind of illustration ideas. And this is like worth saying, obviously heavily reference-based, right? We are taking references and going, what does it look like with the word penny on it? And what does that do to us when we see that? And what starts to feel good? And yeah, some of these graphics just trying to bring out simplicity, but coins and payments, like repeated, finding multiple pensions, that kind of thing, bringing things into one place. Trends, just seeing how things feel when you throw a trendy thing in there. What if there was something that's gone away and found something like a lasso and gradients? They were always using quite a bit of emoji at the time. So like, what does it feel like to throw a massive emoji in there somewhere? What does that do to it? What happens if you take a screenshot of Apple Card's website and just throw the word penny in there with their tagline? What does that feel like? The different types of emoji we could use, different flat ones, maybe a 3D coin or something. Great. How do those all feel as logo marks? What starts to stick? And yes, some gradient things, again, some coins, some shapes, geometric pieces. And yeah, soft gradients. Maybe it's actually a bit calmer than we thought it would be. Oh, sorry, is my mic gone a bit weird? Okay. All good. Yeah, sweet. Nice. Yeah, how does that feel? And yeah, really just showing as many different things to ourselves as we can, and just between like Chris and I that are developing it, really trying to make sure that we had covered all of our bases of things that we thought could work, and making all those happen. And yeah, as time goes through, you start to see this icon is repeated. It starts to stick, right? We're throwing it on different things at the top and at the top here, sorry. And yeah, really letting the ideas stick. We also came across this, which is a lacquer reference, Ragged Edge, but with our messaging thrown in, right? So just grab the color, grab the typography, recreate it, copy it, and just see how that feels. And it's not that you're going to use it, it's not that you're going to run with it. It's just that that's the seed of something that we love. And what if we make something around that and then leave it and then go make something original? And so pulling in these different reference points. Yeah, this colorway felt like it could be something as well. This lime green, and trying to combine that trustworthiness and excitement. So the blue being this quite trustworthy, reserved thing, and then this green being really in your face. And yeah, what does that feel like as a duotone? And ultimately, just tons of development, just knowing the brief and lots of icon explorations. This is probably the most significant one to do with the icon, actually. So at the top right and center right, you have these two icons that are just so close to what we actually ran with. And yeah, really trying to get the detail of is it a coin? Is it a face? Is it definitely not plum? Those kinds of things, and just really like refining details. And again, this is all before the client has seen anything. Really just making sure that we are happy with what we're showing, and that we have covered the bases that we think are right, based on a really clear, wonderful brief that gets to the point and says what we need to do, kind of thing. Yeah, so we start putting things into different colorway mock-ups. It's worth saying as well, when they came back to us, they had a significantly larger budget, which was really nice, because we've done a bunch of work and learned a bunch of things as well. I mean, a bit more of a process in place in terms of strategy and that kind of thing, but we were very happy with where they were at with their strategy. And particularly when the kind of investors that were involved and what they'd built previously, we were more than happy to like follow their lead a bit on the strategy, as long as we ran alongside it as well. So yeah, this is another colorway that was that stuck for a little bit. Really bringing in that purple felt like a fairly significant part of it as well. And yeah, it may seem random, but all of this is snapshots of things that organically grew and ideas we loved for a day and then hated the next. And really, like, developing brand is about developing something that's going to have longevity. So it just takes time to learn what you love and learn what the client, and learn what answers the brief, so that when you present it to the client, you can be confident knowing that you love it and that it definitely works, and you have a discussion around that, about how it fits the brief. Yeah, and this is some development work. We started to land on a route there. And so, yeah, this was where all of that development ended up. And this would have been after a couple of tweaks from the client, a little bit back and forth. But yeah, we landed on this coin icon, which is just playful and like nice, and actually works as an app icon, and actually works as a logo. You could actually print it on almost anything, and it feels familiar and friendly and has just the right amount of things wrong with it, so that when you show it in motion, it kind of is slightly off-centered and just slightly more character to it than a straight circle coin. And that said, if you never saw it animated, never saw it blown up, you know, it feels familiar and it feels kind of sturdy, and I would be happy putting my money in that app, and trusting it will be there. So yeah, much better at scaling, simple. This is it with the logo type. Just spent a lot of time refining this, making sure it just felt consistent. There's all the kind of details you'd expect, in terms of, you know, we used, it started with ambit as a typeface, but obviously kerning and just adjusting the weights of different parts of the coin so it felt like ambit and it matched. And yeah, all of those kind of details. And a bit more thought behind strategy as well. So really letting the messaging kind of be led by them to a certain extent of things that they knew worked in social ads, but also, yeah, bringing things forward. Things like the hunt is on, just a little bit of playfulness of like looking for pensions and that kind of thing. And for once, it felt like, actually, compared with the last project, out of home might actually happen one day. So let's make sure we're like making things that are going to be run with and that kind of thing. And yeah, stuff like this felt really successful with using things that had worked previously of emoji, inline text, but really running with a tone of voice and having it feel like something that I would want to download and would want to interact with, rather than HSBC Bank something, you know, just something that feels very financial and old. This felt more fintech, but still trustworthy. A few little notification ideas, just, yeah, giving them tone of voice suggestions really from a brand point of view. And yeah, it can still feel playful whilst being trustworthy. That was the other kind of discovery from it. And yeah, another part of this was within social assets. They were moving away on the product side of things from a chatbot experience, but there was something quite nice about the personal touch. So within socials, felt you can still hint towards that of a conversational thing, but without it needing to be an interactive experience of a chatbot. And yeah, so moments like this felt really good. Appreciate animation probably doesn't play great over Zoom and all of that. But yeah, iconography, another part of it, the same idea of let's make sure these are just the right amount of not quite perfect, so that there's that playfulness and character, and really just hitting the core main icons, and so different parts of the app we knew these were going to be used in. We really wanted it to feel like this is a bespoke thing, and yeah, it has some character to it and flavor. And of course, making sure that it's like familiar enough that you know what you're tapping on. Because yeah, with that previous iteration, it was who knows. It's just chaos and color and really nicely laid out, but like in your face, whereas this needed to feel a little bit more familiar and playful. So yeah, this is some development work on the app as well. So this project, V1 and V2, looking back, they're actually more or less a similar scope in terms of need a brand, need a website, need an app. It's just with this one, we had a little bit more time to separate those out, and spend time with the brand, which you just saw, and then the website, and then the app. So looking at the app, this is where we just tried lots of things, but this is an overview of the whole app, in pretty much the state they handed it to us. So this was our like wireframe. It was effectively a Swift UI built prototype, and they said, "Great, go and make the brand work in it." And yeah, all of the standard parts of app design, we made started off with effectively a look and feel, for I think there's 8 key screens that we felt kind of represented the whole app, and focused our work around that, and just injecting the right amount of brand into things. And then after that, we went and implemented it across the whole app, and did the whole app design. So here we have the manage page, which just keeping things really simple and using really soft, familiar cards and contrast elements. Spent a long time on these with the colors for the pensions. And again, it was about getting the right amount of playfulness. You wouldn't see a different brand represent different pensions with different colors and emoji, right? It just wouldn't happen. I'm not expecting to find emoji in a bunch of places. So it needed that sense of this is penny. But everything else about this is Swift UI and is very like stock and expected. And the reason for that is that we just don't want to call attention to almost anything here apart from your pensions. And there we can have a really nice brand moment. And it was really like leaning on how is this normally done? Let's lean into the familiar, and then inject these little elements of penny in there, and the overall feel just, yeah, these small things made a big difference. And so yeah, even slide ups, and just different moments of celebration, emoji, using this very soft palette, keeping things feeling very familiar, across the whole app. Yeah, this nice kind of job added thing as well, which is great. And we just ended up with this lovely entire app that we'd had a hand in designing the whole thing. And yeah, we moved on to the website. Little moments like the blog where you can throw in GIFs of Boris Johnson talking about pensions, and yeah, just really nice like tone of voice moments. But yeah, underpinning all of it from a visual language point of view with these cards, and again, lift like familiar, right? Leaning into familiar, leaning into this is something that is done all over app design everywhere now. Less so when we did this, but it was still there. And why not go there? Like that feels really familiar and feels really useful. And it's not boring inherently. It's something that actually helps the user along. And let's get these emoji in there. Let's get this tone of voice things happening. So yeah, wide application. App Store visuals are included. Bunch of other things, socials, and that was Penny. That was the project. So where are they now? How are they doing? They're scaling to 10 million users. They are well on their way. There was a branding award from Indigo. And importantly, they're valued at a lot of money, 24 million. And yeah, it was equally a really successful project. And yeah, what did we learn from doing such a wonderful project? So the three things that we learned from this one mainly, and I'll caveat them with all the right things. But skip strategy, and I'm the head of strategy. It's the most important bit. Skip it. If and only if they have like a rock solid know what they're doing strategy. And I feel like we've, as an industry, got a lot to learn from our clients on strategy. It is their business. They do know what they're doing with it some of the time. And it's easy to run into this stuff with an assumption that we do brands, we know exactly what they should do next. But strategy always starts with listening. And the client in this case could clearly articulate what they needed. And it was a visual representation of an idea they had already. So we were bringing to life their strategy alongside them, right? So yeah, big learning from this, but particularly that second, the rebrand. We didn't need to spend long. It was, this should feel familiar. Great, let's go. Next, listen to the brief, of course, and like make lots of stuff. It's like, listen to what they're saying. It might seem like they're pigeonholing you into things, but still make lots of stuff. Yeah, don't worry about showing the client. You're still listening to their brief. Just make loads of it. Yeah. Thirdly, copy Apple. If you're not sure what to do, copy Apple. It's a pretty good reference point. And seriously, they resolved a lot of design challenges in this. How do we represent this piece of content? And like I say, play around a lot and find the bounds of how much new can we put in here, and is it new for the sake of new, or is it new because it's better? And there was a lot of moments of Apple do it this way, and it's really good, and that's good. That's what we're after. We're after really good design. And again, within brand, it could be tempting to just remove yourself from kind of the rest of the world and go, but I do my design thing this way. It's like, no, the point of design is to fit in with what is there and be compelling and distinct within a context. And if you remove yourself from the context, it's rubbish. And in this case, the context was, it needs to feel right on an iPhone. And so there were a lot of moments where we're like, we're basically rebuilding what Apple have already given us. But that wasn't the whole project, of course. But there were elements of it where we were like, great, copy Apple, move on. What's the next thing? So yeah, another big learning, not talked about enough. And yeah, most importantly, what was the most important thing? And the single most important lesson, I'd say we've learned as a studio and as a designer. And it's the lesson that got us transforming a sea of boring into this kind of wild thing. And it's the same lesson that got us to create something that was simple and familiar. It was really simple, just enjoy it. Goes by really fast. This is a really fun project. We had a blast on it, and whether you're working on something that seems interesting or boring, try and find the joy in it. That first time Penny asked us to do a brand could have been viewed as, oh man, this is boring for a first project, it's about pensions. And the second one could have been seen as, oh, we have to redesign our own brand to make it less interesting. How fun! Like, oh no, I love redoing my old work. This is going to be horrible, you know. Or we could choose to enjoy it. And that first project was a chance to create a brand that stood out and broke all the rules. We could do anything. There was no one going to look at our past work because there wasn't any reference point there. And the rebrand, they came back to us, and it was a really enjoyable chance to work on a project that propels a business forward to like millions of users, right? And we might even get to do a talk one day about it and reference Mr. Bean at the Olympics, and like how cool is that, right? And it's way too easy to find reasons that something sucks in design, and it's an important skill, but it's equally important and less comfortable and less common to enjoy a design and to point out the good and to celebrate the wins of your clients. And yeah, that's what we're about at Good Habit, is enjoying it and doing small things that make a big difference.